What's up guys, Suris here. So do you remember when I did my Peter Popoff episode, that call to action I put at the end of the episode? As a refresher, I asked anybody who was in my audience to send me videos of televangelists that they thought needed to be exposed in one way or another. To that end, I received a request from email correspondent Jay to do some coverage on TB Joshua. There's a lot of things that can be said about this guy, considering that he's one of the richest men in Nigeria with a current net worth of $10 million, all while being a faith-healing televangelist preacher. While doing my research into him, I came across this video where apparently he manages to cleanse two lesbian women who are in love of the gay. After letting Pam know what I was going to do, she decided that she definitely had to be in this video. So Pam, how do you feel about being part of a video where we tackle a televangelist?
Well, Suris, thank you so much for inviting me onto your game show. Let's see what the prize today is. A Peter Popoff knockoff.
Huh. Usually the intro kills me. Awkward.
Why does your intro always kill people? That hurt.
I think the better question is, how do people keep coming back to life after it does so?
Are you ready to be my friend?
Yes, man of God.
There's a spirit disturbing you.
Yes, man of God.
He has transplanted herself into you. It's a spirit of woman.
Yes, man of God.
So the first thing I notice here is that not only are they violently wrenching these women out of their seats in order to have this, conversion with them, but there's also this weird speech thing going on where she keeps on having to say that he's a man of God, as if he's some person of authority.
That sounds almost conditioned, like a cult.
Where is your second? Okay. You people are friends.
Yes, man of God.
It's your wife.
I don't know, Pam. Does it seem like they're being kinda skittish when they're asked that?
It's almost like they live in a homophobic society, where both male and female same-sex sexual activity is illegal in Nigeria, and the maximum punishment for the northern states is death by stoning. And for the southern states, they're a little easier on you. They only give you 14 years at max in prison.
Wow, it's almost like being gay in that society is a bad thing. Nigerian law on the issue, while usually only citing issues of male-to-male activity, generally tends to have gender-neutral activity for some sections as well. In section 217, it says that any male person who, whether in public or private, commits any act of gross indecency with another male person, or procures another male person to commit any act of gross indecency with him, or attempts to procure the commission of any such act by any male person with himself or another person, whether public or private, is guilty of a felony and is liable for imprisonment for 3 years. Section 214 says any person who has carnal knowledge of any person against the order of nature, or permits a male person to have carnal knowledge of him or her against the order of nature, is guilty of a felony and is liable for imprisonment for 14 years. Obviously, this law has some glaring issues in it where, 1, the idea of something being against nature is completely against science. We know that homosexuality takes place in nature. And 2, language that talks about gross indecency is almost always vague by design. While for one person, gross indecency can be two males kissing, for another person, there might be nothing that is gross and indecent until you get to the part where there's whips and chains. Different things get everybody's rocks off, and doing things behind closed doors should be something that's allowed in all circumstances. As long as nobody's hurt, who the hell cares?
El profeta ha dicho, el espíritu de mujer es un espíritu que ha poseído a esa mujer.
Get over it.
Comme je disais à cette femme qu'elle avait un esprit de femme.
Shut up. Shut up.
Vous la voyez tous les deux. Elle et son compagnon sous la délivrance du Saint-Esprit.
Get over it. God loves you. In the name of Jesus Christ. Come on!
You know, I've heard some parents say they can beat the gay out of their kids, but I wasn't aware that there were pastors who tried it.
As someone who got beat for being pansexual as a child, I think this is the wrong tactic, especially when you're a mediocre man who's pretending to be a preacher, trying to beat the gay out of other people.
I love you. Okay? Don't worry. I want to be your friend.
It's okay, little Jessica. Daddy only beats you because he loves you.
And Mommy only sometimes wishes she could beat the ever-loving crap out of you, but that's just because we love you, don't we?
It's most certainly not abusive to hit somebody or tell them that they shouldn't be who they are, and then say that we're only telling you this because we love you, or we're only, beating you because we love you.
Good morning, church. My name is Okoye Mary. The woman standing next to me is my mom, and the others are my sisters. I'm here to testify to the goodness of the Lord in my life, which all started last Sunday during the prophecy. The man of God came up to me. He told me that I have the spirit of woman.
The spirit of woman. You have the spirit of a woman, as a woman, who identifies as a woman. Man, what a coincidence.
I think it might be safe to say that there's a bit of a language barrier going on here. What we would mean by saying spirit of woman is probably something completely different than what she means.
I think what she's trying to get across is that she likes women, and that's okay, but I think that it's not okay for her to be afraid to come out as herself.
No, nobody should be afraid of that. But they would be if they lived in, say, a society that oppresses them.
And go to a church where their pastor literally beats the gay out of them and their wife/girlfriend. It wasn't very clear.
I sincerely hope he wasn't wearing a wife beater under all of that. It would make these jokes hit a lot closer to home. I'm sorry for that. Domestic jokes aren't funny.
That a woman, a spiritual woman, transcended herself into me.
Oh, so she's talking about a demon. Considering that's a woman, I would hazard that's a good guess.
As long as I'm not the one that said women are demons.
And that since then, I've only had affection for just women. And I confirm it to be true because from a tender age, I've always been masculine. I've always been saying that when I grow up, I don't want to have boobs. When I grow up, I want to get married to a woman and stuff like that. But as I grew, the spirit grew along with me, and it got to a point that I had to start practicing it.
Oh, so it sounds like you've got gender dysphoria as well. That also makes sense.
And it is also not something that your pastor needs to beat out of you. But I can completely understand how the idea of something being gender dysphoria would just be associated with being gay in a culture that has literally no education on the topic.
For anyone unaware, gender dysphoria means that you want to be the opposite gender of what you were originally born as. So in this instance, she is a woman that wants to become a male and marry a woman. That makes her lesbian and have gender dysphoria, as she hasn't gone through her transition yet.
True. And when I made my previous comment about the culture literally not being educated in this at all, I wasn't saying it without data. According to a 2007 study done by the Pew Global Attitudes Project, 97% of Nigerian residents believe that homosexuality was a way of life that society shouldn't accept. Because, if your neighbor's boinking his best friend and his best friend happens to be male, that definitely affects you. Right? They rate it as the second highest country with this type of intolerance amongst 40 countries that were surveyed in this study. In 2015, a similar study was done by an organization founded by a Nigerian homosexual activist based in London, and this percentage had decreased to 94%. So in almost a decade's time, there's only been a 3% increase in this country's tolerance levels. But it's not just whether or not people should practice the lifestyle that was in question during some of these studies. In this same survey, the percentage of people in Nigeria who agreed that LGBTQ people should receive education, healthcare, and housing was a whopping 30%. To me, that reads as 70% of your nation think that gay people aren't human.
And my mom is here for the first time, and she's hearing it for the first time as well. Because I remember each time she would look at me with a mother's eye and ask me, "Are you sure you're not gay?" I'll tell her, I'll just be hearing a voice like a backup telling tell her, no, you're not. And I'll tell her, Mom, I'm not. She'll tell me, are you sure? I'll tell her, no, I'm not.
Ah yes, the classic method of coming out of the closet. No, Mom, I'm not gay, but I used to be gay, but now I'm not, thanks to Jesus.
And it continued like that. I tried fighting the spirit with my own physical strength, but it failed me.
So you fought off the gay in yourself with your own physical strength. Pray tell, how did you do that? Did you punch yourself in the face, or did the demon manifest outside your body and you just beat the shit out of it, but it didn't work?
I don't know. All I heard was, I fought against the person who I am, and I lost. It's almost like this is a bit of a lose-lose situation. You either don't get to be who you truly are, and society accepts you, or you get to be who you really are, and society shuns you.
I'm still trying to get the picture of her trying to fight off a gay demon out of my head.
And that was the problem that brought me to the synagogue, to seek for deliverance. And I only have affections for women. The spirit destroyed my life, my academics, because I'm easily fished out from the crowd. I encountered courtesan problems. I had to leave the school. The spirit, like anything I touch, falls back to nothing.
And again, that has absolutely nothing to do with you. It's the society around you that hates gay people. It's not the result of some spirit that infects you with the gay. It has everything to do with being born into a culture that is incredibly homophobic, and then being oppressed by that society for simply being born. Remember, only 30% of that society thinks that gay people should even have educational rights. So of course, you being gay in that culture ultimately meant that your escapades into academia would be squashed. This is one of those situations where it's not your fault. It's everybody around you being colossal pieces of shit. And for that, on behalf of the human race, I'm sorry.
And I only have affection for women like me. As a result of my dressing, if I walk by, someone would say, okay, that's a guy. That's just a guy. And I only had affection for just women. I've never had any encounter whatsoever with a man all my life. I've just been like this. And it was last Sunday that the man of God prophesied to me. He asked me of my second. She came out, and that was my then partner. But now I don't see myself having any affection whatsoever towards her. I see her as my fellow girl, and I see her as my sister.
So how actually disgusting is it to be the type of human being that would break two people apart who love each other simply because you don't like people the way they like people?
The only comment I'll make here is that he is definitely not a closet homosexual.
But of course, his response would be that he can't be a homosexual and he doesn't hate homosexuals, he only hates homosexuality. Hold on to that, we'll get back to it.
After the prayers that were ministered on me on Sunday, I don't have any affection for her whatsoever. Be it any, like I don't have any affection aside seeing her as my fellow female and my sister.
Okay, now you don't have affection for her. What your affection is towards now? A person must have affection.
Yeah, since last Sunday, I have come in touch with my feminine side, irrespective of my dressing whatsoever. I now have affection for men. If a guy walk by, I will be like, okay, he's handsome.
Again, this stupid-ass narrative that people have to have affection and it has to be the mainstream version that you accept.
There are a couple of definitive terms that we could use here, such as asexuality and aromanticism, where you don't have to have sexual tendencies towards any gender or sex, and you don't have to have any romantic feelings towards genders or sex. What it sounds like he's doing is pushing his own agenda on just some harmless bystander that decided to come to this church seeking asylum. But instead of seeking asylum and getting asylum, she got beat. That kind of beating causes irreparable damage to her psyche.
Give thanks to God that the Lord should continue to do more of this, using people to do this, to deliver people all over the world.
Ah, yes. So God can deliver people from the homosexuality that he gave to them at birth. Sorry, this narrative is just freaking disgusting.
Give thanks to God and demand for the grace all over the world. And God should continue to use people. In Jesus Christ's name, we pray. Because we need more people all over the world whom God will be using to release people. Because like I said, Satan caused people to lose control. So God can continue to release people. Just as you are released, other two want to be released. He said right from the small age, he imagined it and the thing come upon. And God will continue to use people all over the world because we need more people that God will use to release, to do this. More. Instead of condemnation.
So what you're saying is, we need more people around the world to release people from homosexuality, which we wouldn't have to do if they weren't being condemned for it, instead of condemning them for it. Actually, no. That's all fucking backwards.
Remember those lines about abuse earlier? Remember, everyone, you have to first give them an apple before you beat your children, because then it's love.
I would say at this point, for someone who's homosexual and in this church, it's almost a form of gaslighting. Like, we don't condemn you, but you'll burn in hell if you do this. We don't condemn you, but it's wrong if you do this. The rubber banding that must go on in an individual's psyche when being subjected to a culture like this is astounding.
Not to mention, if you come out as gay in this church, you're going to be beat. He's setting a precedent that it's okay if you're gay, just as long as you come out and we beat the straight into you.
And it will all be televised on camera in a country that is predominantly homophobic and can kill or imprison you for being a homosexual. If you weren't gay before you came out at church, then it definitely will be televised once you do come out, and your entire life will be ruined, which is horrific, disgusting, and repugnant.
Instead of attack, there is no condemnation in the good news.
Yes, the good news that Jesus is here to save you from what he's going to do to you if you don't want him to save you from it. That's not good news. That's horrible news.
No condemnation at all. Instead of condemnation, you have problems. You isolate them, you chat on them. No! Problem is problem.
Are we watching the Looney Tunes right now? Because those were a lot of sound effects that I remember from my childhood. Or he's having a seizure, but something needs to happen. Help this man today.
If you see a televangelist in need, call 1-800-HELP-A-MORON today.
Headache can kill. Cancer can kill. HIV can kill. Leg pain can kill. Problem is problem, oh. You are the one who look at one problem as a small one. And
please tell me you did not just equate homosexuality to HIV or cancer.
I think he did. So he's not just a moron. He's a piece of shit.
Another one as a big one. The same God that said, thou shalt not lie, also said, thou shalt not murder. If you have murdered people, you have lied. And if you have lied, you are a murderer.
Oh, good. I wasn't gonna say you were a murderer, but you've given us all the ammunition we need in your own words.
Have you looked around recently? You live in a culture where people kill all the time, even for just being gay. Come on, man. Don't sin, remember?
Look, the solution to the war now is love, real love.
Then maybe you should stop telling people who they can and can't love.
Real love, forget wrong.
Okay, but who are you to tell people who it's wrong to or to not love?
Real love, forget wrong. Real love, if you love, you will not hate.
So then why, pray tell, do you hate the gays? Remember, in your own words you said to love. That means you can't hate. But you're hating. That means you can't love. That's your line of logic, right?
You will not segregate. So, please, can you see what God is doing? With love. Ease. Say, with love. Ease.
Oh boy, we're getting in the cult-like stuff again. Repeat after me, kids.
With hate, violence. Tell your neighbor again. I can't hear you. If you love someone, whatever you do with ease, you want to give money to the person you love with smile.
And you love your pastor, right? So give your money to him with a smile.
If care is not taken, you will even say, thank you for collecting this money because you love the person. I never believe you will collect this. Thank you.
Yes, Pastor T.B. Joshua. Thank you for taking my money after you told me that other people in the congregation should be condemned for how they were born.
But when you hate, no matter what you want to give, with love, ease, with hate, violence. So thank you very much. You may be seated.
Does this resemble a courtroom to anyone else? All rise. Alrighty, you may be seated. Prosecutor, begin.
I find the defendant guilty of gay.
Oh no, guilty as charged.
Wait, you're not the one who's supposed to be prosecuted.
Oh, did nobody tell you about that?
Well, this relationship just got awkward.
I don't know how many times I have to tell you on this channel. I'm pansexual. I like anybody that likes me that's at least a little bit attractive. So hey, you fit the bill.
While I'm only guilty of one of those two things, you can decide which.
He said, that is gone. It's a spirit. That is gone. It's gone. When you see him in another 2 to 3 weeks, the appearance will change. No. Because it's things of the spirit. So you are telling me now that your affection is now toward the right direction.
Yes, man of God.
Oh my God. And I want to assure you, that affection will now remold you.
Amen.
Just in 2 weeks' time, you will astonish yourself.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, man of God.
So that's the end of his video, but not the end of our presentation, because usually what's in the description of the person's video who I'm commenting on doesn't matter terribly much to me, unless of course they're not providing citations while adding in a bunch of horrible claims, but what you can find in the description for his video is very interesting. Pam, would you read off his description for me?
God hates sin, not sinners. When I say, do not judge so that you will not be judged, I mean we should hate sin, but not the sinner, because sinners can change. If you have killed a sinner by judging him, then there will be no opportunity for change. Sinners can be delivered. We should hate the act, not the people, because our battle is not against the flesh and blood, but against the spirit beings that cause all these acts. The Bible is my standard. If my parents were one, I would not have been given birth to. Those that are asking this question, if your parents were one, you would not have been given birth to. You that are reading me, if your parents were one, you would not be reading this today.
Thank you for that. So what we have here is the usual hate the sin, not the sinner bullcrap. So I guess I can just say, I don't hate Hitler. I just don't like the things he did. Except I wouldn't say that, because we as people are invariably tied to our actions. The only thing that anybody can ever gather from you are your words and your actions. These are the metrics by which people are judged. To say they are separate is not logical. And again, this is more verbiage that reinforces the fact that homosexuality is a sin that people need to be delivered out of. Based on this logic, I'm sorry, Pam, but you need to be delivered from that freckle on your face, since apparently things that you are born into can be labeled as sins.
Well, it was my favorite freckle, but if I have to give it up, then I guess for Jesus I will. So if God can cure genetic defects, then can he cure your micropenis?
And that's enough of that. It was wonderful having you on the show. Pam, goodbye! If you guys enjoyed the video, you know what to do, and I've got to get out of here to cure my fading masculinity.